Get ready for this piping hot tea. Get ready for a tea time unfiltered with your girl Lovelyti. Spilling all this hot tea on these podcast streets. So get ready for this piping hot tea. From tea time unfiltered with your girl Lovelyti.
Hey, tea sippers, it's your girl T, and I have my boy here, Jay. And we talk all the time on Telegram. I always call it Telegraph for some reason. I don't know why, but I finally realized the name is Telegram. But we talk on there all the time about just different things that are going on, and especially about politics. And he's called into the show a few times in the past. So I wanted him to come on here just so we can go a little bit deeper than I did yesterday on my live stream concerning the things that went on in Minnesota and concerning, what's going on right now politically and globally. Like we want to hit on some geopolitical stuff as well. So, Jay, say what's up to the people, honey.
Hi, tea sippers.
So it was a lot. I was literally out of town on the East Coast. And like I said in the live stream, my phone was blowing up. I know you guys were posting stuff in Telegraph concerning the lawmakers, Representative Melissa Hortman and Mark, her husband, and then also Senator John Hoffman, who was also shot as well. So it was a lot that went on. This was one of the biggest manhunts in the Twin Cities, but they were eventually able to capture him, and he was pretending to be a police officer. So, what was your first thought when you heard all of this, going on over the weekend before that we knew that it was Vance Bolton, or Bolter, excuse me, who did all of this?
It concerned me because it reminded me of that Supreme Court ruling last year during the election where basically Trump got immunity while president for basically doing whatever he wanted to do, which
Mhm.
also means getting rid of political opponents. So that's been people's fear for a very long time now since that ruling. And I'm not saying he's connected to it by any means, but it's very concerning,
Mhm.
especially since he didn't want to call Tim Walz after everything has gone down the way that it's gone down.
I think that was the part that was like really crazy when that came out yesterday, because I think that broke during my live stream. Because you would just think, regardless of what side you're on, blue or red, that somebody is on a hit list, that you'd at least want to, reach out and show some type of sympathy. Because people had plenty of sympathy for him when he was almost assassinated. So the fact that he's just doubling down, he's like, no, I would never reach out to him. He's weird. And whatever else he was saying, it's just like, you're supposed to be the leader of the free world, and your attitude right now is just, it's not good. It's very divisive.
And it's disheartening. I mean, when you think about you have people like Elon Musk who said that empathy is a weakness. We live
Mhm.
in a society that I don't even know how to like put this into words aside from the fact it's just sad. The fact that people believe that empathy is bad.
Well, think
You
about how
know,
we got here. When you think about the whole election, we got here because people lack empathy. People did not see themselves in other people, right? And these were discussions that we were having behind the scenes, is that, people felt like, well, the trans situation doesn't affect me. I'm not trans. I don't believe in that. Or, well, I'm not Mexican, so it doesn't matter about the legal immigration. But people don't understand how we're intricately connected as people. So yeah, maybe you have your papers or you were born here, but you're a farmer. Who do you think is going to pick the fruit in your fields or the vegetables? Or you work at a hotel. Most of the people who work at hotels, who work in housekeeping, tend to be Latino. So it's just like people were not seeing the big picture. They were moving on hate. Look at all the Cubans and the Venezuelans down in Miami. They said the lady, it came out yesterday, the lady that made the song, I will vote A for Donald Trump. Her husband was picked up. Clock
oh
that.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
So,
hard to feel bad for people, but at the same time, I'm trying to hold some sort of grace for the
mhm,
humanity of it all.
mhm.
But it's kind of it I want to say I told you so, but I can't get myself to do it. I can't.
Well, you can do it. You can go ahead and toot your horn.
I told y'all so.
Because I know you worked with a lot of MAGA people, and I know that was one of the things that was stressing you out during the elections is that you were literally sounding the alarm. because we were having these conversations behind the scenes, and you were sounding the alarm to everybody on Telegraph. You were sounding the alarm to your coworkers and everything else. So how are those same coworkers doing now? Kind of quietly doing.
Quiet, very quiet.
Mm,
Nobody wants to talk about what's going on, except for there's like two of them that will bring up things here and there, but
mm,
nobody wants to listen to it. Nobody wants to entertain it because we
yeah.
were warned.
Yeah. You argued with them till you were blue in the face. I remember you coming into Telegraph just stressed out, like, I cannot take this. These people are homophobic, they're racist, like it just doesn't make any sense. And now they're quiet.
And
Interesting.
you and what's crazy about it too is I feel like there's a real pipeline to MAGA. This isn't something I think that you have everyday people that were very, I don't want to say normal, but didn't really think about much, but they
Mm-hmm.
got indoctrinated by some of these blogs, some of these streamers,
Mm,
and it really is a pipeline to conservatism. Even Drake recently just posted a bunch of Canadian conspiracy theories.
mm.
And I was looking at somebody on TikTok, or I think it was Teray, and he basically explained that these conspiracy theories are like the same thing that we're looking at here when we get indoctrinated into like MAGA here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a huge child or a kid following. So that's troublesome that we have these big entertainers and big quote unquote leaders, I guess you could say, that are indoctrinating the youth into a lot of right wing um, and a lot of right wing talking points.
Yeah. And I think the algorithm had a big play in that because I know me and you talked about this the other day that I remember, you get stuck in these echo chambers. And I remember when it was popular when, you would have like the Daily Mail, excuse me, the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, all of those guys, all of, Candace Owens, Andrew Tate, they were pushed through all these algorithms, TikTok, YouTube, things like that. So now it's very interesting now that people are upset, now that people are being affected, now that people are mad. I'm noticing more of the left people now being pushed in the algorithm on YouTube. So now we're seeing the Brian Moculars, the Brian excuse me, the Adam Moculars and the Brian Taylor Cohens and things like that Midas touch. They've surpassed Joe Rogan at this point. They were not popping a year or two ago. So it just shows you like how the algorithm can really shape and change things. Because I think a lot of people, if they had it to do over, they would. They wouldn't have, went the route that they went. They wouldn't have voted how they voted. But I think it just wasn't a strong enough, opponent for Trump. Kamala was not a strong opponent. And I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. And a lot of people were not going to vote for her just based on her race, based on her gender, and other things. So I think that's what made it ripe for him to win. Plus, with Elon Musk, a lot of people look up to him like this Tony Stark's figure. So it was like a catalyst. Then you had influencers with huge platforms like Aiden Ross, DJ Academics, and things like that, Sneeko, Andrew Tate, and they were also kind of pushing the same message as well.
And that's where the Democratic Party really failed because they didn't reach out to the youth through streaming.
Mm.
The Republican Party used their think tank, and they always do this to latch on to the latest topics in Hollywood. Think about the Megan Thee Stallion situation. There's no reason why Tory Lane should have ever been on Fox News.
Mm.
Like the same thing with like even the Amber Heard situation. If we go back to even like a few years ago, like all of these things, they're all connected.
Yeah, they're definitely hip and on top of like what's trending, what the young folks are into. And I think the Democratic Party got comfortable and they just assumed they would get the votes.
And it reeks of elitism. And that's the issue
Mm.
that I do have with the Democratic Party because I feel like they felt like they were untouchable. It is either me or Trump.
Mm.
And people either sat out. So I think that's what it really was. It wasn't because we have this big society of people that are just like conservative and hate and, just are MAGA. We
Mm.
had a lot of people that sat out the election, especially white men.
Yeah,
So like the
I can
exit
see that.
polls like told a whole story that I don't think people talk about enough.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it too, is that a lot of people are frustrated and they're like, I'm not dealing with either devil. I don't trust either bird. They're both, wings off of the same bird. So yeah, that is true too. You did have a lot of people just sit this one out because they didn't like either choice. But now we're here. And it's just like, at this point, where do we go from here?
Yo, what's up?
Hey, tea sippers. To listen to the rest of this podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, or AnchorFM.com, which is a free podcasting site. Thank you guys so much for the support, and stay tuned for the next video.